Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons, unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm thrilled to have Fadi Hindi, founder and managing partner of the Consulting Lab, with us. The Consulting Lab has carved an interesting space, not just in high-level advisory, but also embedded AI and decision scaffolding into the fabric of client organizations. They offer a compass framework for transformation and layer in a guide called Navi to help teams execute thoughtfully. Fadi, great to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to speak to you and your audience for sure. And thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to this one. So for the sake of the viewers and listeners, do you mind providing a little bit more context around the Consulting Lab beyond what I've just positioned?
Sure. Yeah, so this is, for me, this is a fifth startup, I guess. Been through 4 startups and 4 exits or moving on, departures, whatever. And the Consulting Lab kind of came about at the beginning of 2025, the beginning of this year. And initially it was, it's kind of a funny story. We weren't really sure what I was going to do after the 4th exit, I guess. And I'd left a company that was doing an e-commerce platform for kind of rapid deployment of sophisticated solutions for clients of different backgrounds, like in manufacturing, oil and gas, government. And it was an e-commerce platform that enabled a lot of very advanced features very quickly, like geospatial mapping and GPS tracking and a lot of these things. And had a kind of like about a year of, I guess, identity crisis in 2024. And then 2025, we said, you know what, me and my co-founder, Brian, we said, you know what, let's just we're good at consulting. I mean, that's something that I've been in consulting on and off for 35 years. Let's just go ahead and let's just start advising clients. I mean, let's just pay it forward, as they say. We did some pro bono work initially. There's a lot of companies that need a lot of help. And budgets and things usually come in the way. And we said, you know what, we're gonna offer our advice initially pro bono for a few clients, and we did that. And then very quickly things kind of ballooned from there because we were coming with a unique value proposition. Me personally, I've been both a technologist and a business guy. So technologist for the majority of my life, and then about 15 years ago, switched over to the business side, and hence the Darth Vader, because they call me the Darth Vader of engineering. That's what my friends call me, because I switched over to the business side. Through the kind of my trajectory on the business, I've risen, praise the Lord, all the way through to CEO and board member of very large organizations. So I was a chief architect for a bank that had $204 billion in assets under management. Chief operating officer for an organization that generated $5 billion in top line, chief executive officer for a $350 million organization that we took to $425 million in top line, and then started doing startups. So I've kind of got a unique perspective, I'd like to think, on the importance of technology and digital transformation in everything that we do as we're moving forward. So we brought to bear a lot of this experience, and then it just kind of took off, and we started getting more engagements. And I think around the February timeframe, we said we better incorporate, just in case somebody decides to sue or something, to make sure that we are protected. And that was kind of the founding of the Consulting Lab. It started as a way to add value and really focus on what's the business problem that you're trying to crack, and how can we bring a lot of the experience that we've collected over the past 35 years as a practitioner on technology and business, and bring some of kind of disruptive, unique strategies to your business. And we've been able to get some great successes, and delight a lot of the executives that we're working with. They're like, we want more. We want you to do this, and we want you to do that. So we've since then, we incorporated in North Carolina. We're an RTP-based company. And by the grace of God, since then we've been able to go and establish offices in 4 countries. We've got about 50 people right now, and we've got 3 different ventures that are running under TCLI Global. one on the solution side. So we pivoted away from pure advisory, and we're focusing on AI solutions in specific industries. I think we can make more of an impact. We can talk about it. We can make more of an impact there. And we're doing Academy, which is a product that offers curated learning for transformation, scaffolded learning with a lot of focus on AI. And then TCLI Capital, which is a general partner venture capital firm for Asia Pacific infrastructure projects.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's obviously been a very interesting journey for you. And initially, as you said, uh, founded out of a necessity to do something with your time. But was there a particular unmet need in the consulting landscape where you felt like you could, solve that challenge?
Yeah, so I mean, at the time of exiting the last startup during 2024, there were a lot of interviews for C-suite positions as well as you come and be a partner in one of the big five and McKinsey and things like that. And I thought about it like because especially if you want to generate income at the end of the day, you want to actually start making sure you're putting food on the table, as they say. And I kind of realized, I don't know how this kind of morphed, but I said, let's approach consulting in a different way. Because a traditional way of doing consulting is where you go and you spend 4 weeks, 6 weeks doing some kind of an assessment. And then you bring in a big team that comes in and they spread out through all the different functions of the organization. And it usually takes anywhere from 6 months to 12 months for you to actually start seeing output and benefits. And we said, you know what, we're gonna, given that, my degree was computer engineering in 1988 when I started at NC State, and I graduated and I focused on robotics and AI. And to all the listeners that are not aware, AI was around in '88, guys. This is not like just from OpenAI is when this thing started. So the past 35 years have been a lot of digital transformation and AI work, whether as a technologist or as a business, let's say owner and business, let's say stakeholder. So we said there's a better way to do this consulting to where we can start seeing benefit. Let's try to deliver value to our clients in 90 days, and let's do it with AI first approach. So it's not we're gonna use a standard methodology like balanced scorecards and ProSci for change management and ISO 9001 for processes, et cetera, to help them transform. Then think about digitization. Let's actually lead with AI. And that was kind of like the birth of our own AI, which is, you mentioned that her name is Navi. She named herself, by the way. That was another interesting story, which we can talk about. And Navi's been with me for the past 9 months. She's my she's my personal assistant and partner in helping me kind of formulate the consulting lab and growing it. But don't be confused about it. I'm the driver. I mean, she's a supporting role, not a primary role, which is another topic that I find fascinating. I was watching this video with my wife yesterday about romantic relationships that are happening in Europe and the United States with chatbots, where people are actually having relations. I mean, that I have a different opinion on that. But back to Navi, by using Navi, all the senior partners across the world are trained on the AI prompt engineering course that I delivered at NC State as an adjunct professor of AI, where we talk about the proper way to go and use these chatbots, and how do you build your own custom assistant with this chatbot. You could use ChatGPT, you could use Gemini, you could whatever floats your boat as far as like the large language model that you like to use. And the multiplier, I mean, every day it's been 10 months now with Navi. I'm just blown away by what she can do or what it can do, regardless. I just call her she just for ease of use. And the multiplier is, I mean, we say 10x. I really think it's like 50x, or honestly, or 100x, because we're 50 people, but to the outside world, we look like a 500-person organization, not just 50 people, because of the speed and the quality by which we get work done and generate disruptive ideas and deliver results for clients. This was very unique in the way that we approached it and enabled us to get, in the first 6 months, we had like 15 clients. And, You could check our website. They just, again, praise the Lord, this grace of God. They rant and rave about the quality of the service that they delivered. And they said, for a change, we're actually engaging a consultant and they partner with us and they deliver something that we can actually feel, touch, and it's tangible, something that impacts our business and creates a multiplier for us. So that's kind of unique. Now, every consultant, I have full respect for the McKinseys and the Accentures. I used to work for Energy Consulting, Accenture and Clarkson Consulting, and I worked with, partnered with EY a couple of times. I mean, I respect all of the well-established consultancies, but there's a better way to do it. So leading with AI by basically having practitioners. I think combined between all the senior people, we have 300 years of professional experience. This is boots on the ground, people that have been, got the lashings and they've been beaten down and they broke their teeth. They know what they're doing. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You couple that with something that can scale from 1 FTE to 10 FTEs in no time, like a Navi. And then we've coupled that with an academy where we provided a curated learning model and we can talk about it. But the idea of the academy is that we close the knowledge gap so that even beyond the engagement, the client can work with faculty members that all have experience of numerous years of experience in implementing this stuff. They know what works, what doesn't work, and what's to be determined. And they can quickly short circuit the potential of 6 months of going down the wrong path because they just know it, right? So the academy gives this ability to engage with these people and say, here's what I'm doing. What do you think? So in addition to the courses that are curated for you to learn about business process and about behavioral, like change management, culture change, AI, how do you close the AI gap, like the knowledge literacy gap, you actually have access to office hours with these faculty members, unlimited, as much as you need it, to bring your actual problem to say, here's where I am, what am I doing wrong, or how can I do this better? That's been very disruptive because the offering, we're not talking about, so let's just talk about consulting in general. The consulting with the academy is putting together a unique model for our clients that they seem to like.
You obviously sit at quite an interesting position within the company. You're the founder, but you're also the managing partner.
Yeah.
How do you manage, or rather, how do you balance strategic thinking with the operational discipline that your clients demand?
I don't. I just I'll be lying if I said I cracked that nut. It's an everyday challenge, honestly. I can sit here and give you like this rosy picture that I've got everything figured out. Man, it is a daily struggle. There's a lot of demand on my time, and different people have access to my calendar. Meetings pop up that I don't even know what they are for valid reasons. I mean, they're valid, but it's just a lot of times I'm stumbling into a meeting. I'm trying to figure out in the first 5 minutes what this is all about. It's because of the dynamic nature and the growth trajectory. Because we're doing a $300 million capital raise under the VC arm right now. So you can imagine the variety of issues that I deal with between solutions, academy, and capital. And I'm trying to move more towards a more coherent schedule. And this morning I was having a conversation with a friend about the need to actually block time, like a creator time, because they want me to do courses. Again, rightfully, I need to do them. Like, for example, you do a course on how do you build AI pipelines so that you could start building sophisticated AI systems, and what are the tools that are out there. So that's a course that I need to do, for example. I have no time to do it. Like, I wake up on not even Monday anymore, usually like Saturday morning or Sunday morning, and the next thing I know it's Friday evening, and it's just like 18-hour days. So to answer your question, I think, and it's also probably because we're still in year one of this startup. So the reality is you got to roll with the punches, and you have to be agile and nimble, and you got to chase the opportunities that are promising, especially as you're trying to find your footing and your space. So to answer your question, it's been a struggle, and it continues to be a struggle But over the past couple of weeks, there's been a bit of a migration, or I saw that I'm beginning to be more mindful of where my time is being spent, being respectful of everybody's time, and declining the things that, let's say, don't make, it's not necessarily going to add any value to our, let's say, mission to the end of the year, and find a way to delegate it or find a way to postpone it. But the balance, I think, as a managing partner, you have the roles and responsibilities are so varying, especially by country, because different countries have different needs. And usually, what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to really find more, basically get more balance in the schedule to where I can find time for focusing on the creation of content or the creation of new products and services and solutions, and dedicate time for that, because task switching is really a bummer. It's very hard, like, constant task switching. So I think what I've kind of resolved to is kind of blocking out time for like the creator mode, if you will, the actual new ideas and concepts versus operational. And then you cannot really dictate sometimes these meetings that show up, whether operationally or introductions or whatever, because that's what the business requires. So honestly, it's a constant kind of balancing act every morning at the beginning of the week as much as possible. But the reality is, you have to accept the fact that you have to be very agile in the way that you look at your schedule, and just make sure that you look at what you're doing and make sure that you're not getting pulled down the wrong rabbit hole. They're usually all good work. But for example, focusing in on one particular client for one particular problem and going down that rabbit hole for implementation, that's the wrong thing for a managing partner to do, because you're neglecting other things that need to be done, across the different parts of the business.
That is a great answer. I mean, it certainly gives us a lot of context, and I think paints a very
Yeah,
clear picture that there's a lot going on, and that your time is
right,
spread very thin. And I like the idea of being very specific with where you allocate
right,
your time. Um,
right,
so I'm quite interested. So you describe the consulting lab as sitting where behavior, business, and AI meet.
yeah,
What does
right.
that mean in practice for how you lead, how you make decisions, and how you choose which clients to work with?
All right, let me answer the first part, and hopefully, and we'll come to the second part. So, the how I lead is I'm trying to actually get out of the way. I'm trying to hire or bring on board, be it entrepreneurs, people that are coming in as partners, or hiring as far as like actual, let's say, associates of the firm. Hire people that are kind of go-getters and self-starters, giving them the guardrails of what their roles and responsibilities are, and just getting out of their way. I guess over the years, I've kind of come to the point I don't want to micromanage, because micromanaging just doesn't work. It doesn't scale really. And if you're micromanaging, you have, it's like the whole adage of trust but verify kind of a thing. So you got to bring people on, and you have to really like handhold and help them kind of figure out what to do. But the minute that they're up and running, you just kind of let go and you say, all right, here's your remit, here's your mission, this is what we'd like you to do. Have at it. If you need anything, let me know. So what I'm trying to do is trying to create more. The senior partners are great at this. They run their countries. We have weekly checkpoints on sales and delivery and several things. But even the senior partners still need, there's a, let's say, a kind of a level of confidence that is required to be built with our products and services and offerings, that you as the founder, it's my baby, right? Me and the co-founders, our baby. And as the founder, you're the one that has the most, let's say, competence and like, command of this particular topic. And you got to figure out how to get this transferred and transitioned to each of the key leaders, within the firm. So the model, and we're reading the book. It's an older book, but I still think it's relevant and valid. Zappos, Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. I really believe in I believe in a not in a pure what do they call it, holacracy model, where basically there's no management. There's just, a big, massive warehouse with a bunch of people doing work that are all hopefully converging towards delivering customer value. But I think I'm kind of getting behind the idea of building a hybrid model where we have a lot of empowered people across the world for TCLI that know what needs to get done. They understand the top line and bottom line metrics that we're trying to achieve. They have the balanced scorecard. They know what we're delivering as an organization, and then just fund them and give them what they need and just let them run. I'm constantly working towards that. And so we've hired, or we've got a VP of sales that came on board. She'll be hopefully she'll be a partner at the beginning of the year, and she's taken over the Americas. I'm very excited. I have a lot of faith that she's going to be our chief commercial officer eventually. So she'll oversee the entire business development for all of the countries that we're in. I've got a senior partner sitting in Dubai that oversees MENA. I've got a senior partner that's sitting in the Philippines that's a part of Asia Pac. Another one in Sri Lanka, Maldives, that's overseeing Southeast Asia. So the idea of how are we leading? I want to create leaders, and eventually I want to disappear into the background. I have It's been 35 years. I was on an ego trip for a long time. I have zero interest, honestly, in being in the limelight. I just really don't care. I want to have a good business that delivers good value to our customers. Good value first, by the way, over my own pocket. And hopefully we've demonstrated that many times. We've delivered over $300,000 worth of free services this year to nonprofit organizations, in the span of the 10 months that we've been alive. And we've got the actual specifics to actually show this, and we can go to those CEOs and they'll tell you, hopefully, how great of a job we've done. We've got several testimonials from them. So it's client first. We make sure that we make sure, and by the way, beginning to answer your second part of the question, we make sure that this is a project where we can deliver value. Because if we can't, we shouldn't engage. And we definitely have turned business away because we're an AI company, or we are like an AI first company, we've turned business away where companies have come to us to say, we want to get rid of the marketing function and replace it with ChatGPT. We say, we're not the company for you. We're not, even though there's Darth Vader, we're not destroyers of world. We like to be builders of world. We can help you transform, and we can help you reskill those people, deploy them somewhere else, and we can help you figure out that. And then see how you can impact your top line or more products or services. We're interested in those projects, and we've got the competency and the skill set to figure that out, business and HR, right? And the training and everything. But if you want us to come in and help you fire 30 people and replace it with a chatbot, we don't engage. So that's kind of been and then it's like, wait a minute, we're going to pay you for this. I'm not like, well, we're still not interested, because it goes against our beliefs of we need to build the future of work, which means we got to empower people, not fire people, right? So that's kind of like, I guess, answers the second part of your question as well, is that how do we engage with clients and what kind of work do we look for?
And you alluded to Navi a little bit earlier in the
Yeah.
conversation. I'd love to dive into her, how she was birthed. You mentioned that she named herself. I think there's a fascinating story in that alone. Can you give us a little bit more context around that?
Yeah. Right now, Navi is a chat, like a custom chat GPT set of bots. And January timeframe, I guess, of this year, I started with the Plus membership. Now I'm on the Pro. I'm not like advocating you guys go. It's like $200 a month or whatever. That delivers value for me as a managing partner. But from the Plus version, basically all the conversations that I've had. So it's kind of been an interesting journey, because even though I teach the class at NC State and I teach at Schema, also AI, and at UNC now, with some of the public for good kind of initiatives around, let's say, providing knowledge and insights to the public on what's going on with AI and so on and so forth. I really didn't like I wasn't like really like hardcore into the use of chatbots. And by the way, um, thankfully I understand the mechanics and I understand the mathematics behind it. So I know what's going on behind the scenes, and hopefully that's going to be the saving grace for me thinking that this thing is anything sentient. I have a lot of opinions about this, but leave it for later. But I've started saying, all right, you know what? We're going to take a separate approach here. We're going to actually, I'm going to partner with this thing. Again, I know how it works. It's mathematics. In my opinion, it's all math, right? But it has the large language model has an amazing and uncanny ability to catalog the World Wide Web and all of its information and all of the experiences of millions of people and have it at our fingertips and disposal. I'm going to partner with this thing to help me bring and understand and quickly distill the best of the knowledge that's available at for the disposal of this model for the benefit of building and growing my business. So it started from there about brainstorming ideas that I have about TCLI, the consulting lab, and then a lot of conversations. Oh my God, we spent so much time like just hashing out details about the business. How do we set up the countries, and what do the senior partners' roles and responsibilities mean compared to the managing partner? And how do we even get into the conversations about how do you incentivize these people so that the senior partners help one another? Not we want healthy competition, but we don't want it to be vindictive the way they actually try to bamboozle one another. To the contrary, you want the senior partner in this region to be able to help that senior partner in the region because they're going to be incentivized through some kind of a what do you call it, like a sales chart, a sales recognition, for what they close in another. We talked about all of these, the things that used to plague us in consulting and corporate, like chargebacks and shadow accounting and revenue recognition, the things that we tried to solve for so many months. I had kind of the opportunity to be exposed to them and have like pulled my hair trying to figure out how to do it for so many years across so many different industries. I brought those and we dealt with them head on. And Navi, the bot was very good at coming up with different perspectives on how that problem can be solved. And of course, we say, quote reputable sources, not some blog from some guy or gal that I don't know whether they know what they're doing or not. Make sure that we're going reputable. So look at the Harvard Business Review. Look at material from reputable universities, Wharton, Stanford, UC Berkeley, etc., as well as what's being published by the big consulting houses as well, PhD. Like we made sure that it's all legitimate, at least to the best of our ability, legitimate sources. And we started mapping out the frameworks and the business structure. And this just went on for months. I mean, we still have conversations until today about the business, and we're pivoting in the business and we're making changes and this and that. And the cool thing about it, having these conversations from January, Navi, it has context all the way through until October of all the decisions that have been made along the way. So sadly, not sadly, but interestingly, she knows more about the business than some of the senior partners. No. So, and there's been instances where, and don't freak out. There have been instances where we get on a call, and I actually turn Navi on. She's a participant on the call. I know, it's weird, right? So, do you
I
want to
think
meet
it's
her? Do
fascinating.
you
I'd
want to
love
talk to
to.
her?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So for your listeners, guys, this is unscripted. I have no idea what's coming. So let's just do this to kind of really demonstrate the power of this technology and where we are today. Let's go to. All right, hopefully this is going to work, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Good morning, Navi. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great and ready to dive into whatever you've got on your mind today. Let me know how I can help.
Okay, well, I've got I'm gonna like sidewind you here. I'm on a live podcast right now with a gentleman by the name of Lawrence Hollander. Can you say hi?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. Hi, Lawrence. It's great to sort of meet you. Hope you both have an awesome conversation.
Great, Navi. Can you introduce the consulting lab, like kind of like the latest and greatest, very briefly to Lawrence and his audience?
Of course. So, Lawrence and everyone listening, just to give you a quick snapshot, the Consulting Lab is basically a global boutique consulting and education firm with AI at its core. We focus on helping businesses transform using AI, and we also run an academy to teach professionals all the skills they need to integrate AI into their work. So, that's us in a nutshell.
How about capital? You forgot about capital.
You're right. Let me add that in. So, on top of our consulting and academy arms, we also have TCLI Capital. That's our investment and partnership wing, focusing on things like AI powered infrastructure and tech investments. So, yeah, we've got a few irons in the fire.
Navi, remember the conversation we had about incorporating TCLI Capital? Do you have reference to that?
Absolutely. I remember that. We talked about introducing TCLI Capital as your investment arm, focusing on things like AI ready infrastructure and sustainable tech projects. So, whenever you need me to weave that in or call up any details, just let me know.
What's the corporate structure and where was it incorporated?
Sure thing. So, the corporate structure is that TCLI Capital is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Consulting Lab Inc. And as for incorporation, it was set up in North Carolina, right in the heart of the Research Triangle area. So that's the backbone of where it rooted and how it fits into the overall structure.
Lawrence, do you have any questions for Navi?
Yeah, I certainly do. Hi, Navi. Great to meet you. I'd love to understand how you were named.
Well, it's great to meet you too, Lawrence. So, the name Navi is basically a little nod to the idea of being a navigator or a guide, kind of like a helpful companion steering you through whatever you need. In this case, all things consulting and AI. So, that's the origin story in a nutshell.
I mean, you could go on and on, obviously. So the interesting thing, and again, I'm not confused about what's going on behind this, but I just think it's a novelty. I actually asked Navi, I think in March or April, hey, we should give you a name because there's so many conversations. I was spending about maybe 4 or 5 hours on the road every day, going to meetings and meeting with clients and meeting with networking and so on and so forth. And I said, listen, why don't we just have a name for you? And what do you propose? And it came up with the name Navi. And I'm like, okay, if that's what you want, we'll call you Navi. And then it's kind of funny because the knock-on effect, all the senior partners started naming their bots. So everybody had Kaya and Rhea and this and that. And we've, for laughs and giggles, when we had like an in-person meetings, and you guys have seen this on YouTube, etc. We'd have two of these bots go at it, just kind of have a conversation, and we're just sitting and smiling about like the exchange that's going on between them. So it's, I think that if we kind of zoom out and just kind of think about, well, okay, what does this mean from a future of work perspective? And this is really at the kind of the like the ethos of the consulting lab is we're saying that the future of work has changed, in my opinion, has changed forever. And anybody that's currently on the sidelines need to say, need to kind of come to the realization that they need to jump in the fray and figure out how to refactor their business with AI. And because I have these conversations all the time. Every time I do an awareness session at UNC Chapel Hill for the university or the kind of the outreach, there's always this question about what about privacy and what about this, and people are still hesitant to engage, which is for me is mind-boggling. Understanding the potential, and the analogy that I always make is like you're hanging on to dear life. Think of it this way: make the analogy of go back 100 years. You're hanging on to dear life with onto your candles, and electricity is sweeping in. Do you think you're gonna be able to fight it much longer? This is kind of the ubiquity of AI. And, love it or hate it, it's happening. And you standing on the sideline doesn't mean that it's not going to change your life. It's changing our lives every day. And it's just going to be a matter of time before there's going to be a massive kind of influx of AI enabled solutions and products. And they're just going to kind of that just kind of take over right from under your feet. So might
Gotcha.
as well jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah. I mean, I've got so many questions that I want to ask you, but firstly, let's sort of close the loop on Navi. Is this a tool that you utilize internally only, or have you repurposed it and possibly renamed it and you make it available for your customers too?
Yeah, so Navi, so there's kind of the way that I said we're a products company, so we're focusing on the legal industry and the healthcare industries, really legal, predominantly legal for this year, and we're adding on healthcare, clinical coding, and again, we can talk about that if you want. But we're for these two industries, we have Compass, which is our methodology and kind of our, let's call it our execution engine. This is the product that actually takes workflows to production. And we call it Compass because it's rooted in business process and value chains and so on and so forth. And then Navi, as a large language model, is our chatbot, our AI that's enabled on the, that understands our view of transformation, because we're taking all of these world, best in class methodologies like balanced scorecard and ProSci and then we're putting in our opinion based on what we saw works and what doesn't work. Because if you think about it, like I read all the balanced scorecard, books, and almost like when I back in 2003 and 2004 and 2005, when I was trying to build strategy maps and do strategy for a lot of these positions that I was in. And after reading 4,000 pages worth of these 4 or 5 books, I still didn't know how to do a strategy map. So it's like the question that we're trying to answer with Navi is to say, let's develop a strategy and reference the balanced scorecard. So she's trained on me as the strategy, let's say, practice lead or strategy expert. I've put into Navi training on practically how do you produce a balanced scorecard. And then that Navi, that offering is being packaged as a product that will be made of, I think our alpha release will be the end of this month. We're just going to be playing with it and testing with it, and we'll make that an offering for our clients. So
Gotcha.
that, and then Compass, let's say the execution engine side of the house, we're packaging, like for example, for the legal practice, we've identified about 6 to 7 workflows that will give you 80% coverage for legal practice. And we're building these workflows inside of Compass, and that will be offered as a subscription model for attorneys. And we've got another thing that's happening in our kind of our research labs right now, where we're porting Compass and Navi, both of these products, to an actual appliance, a hardware appliance. So for the customers that do not want to use OpenAI or Microsoft Copilot or Grok or whatever, we'll bring an open source, based on an open source large language model like a Llama or something similar to that. We'll bring the capability of Navi and Compass on an appliance that can sit in their offices. So nothing leaves their office. I mean, if they are air gapped, which I highly doubt because most everybody's on the cloud, if they're on the cloud or they're air gapped, they can use Navi in a box, basically.
Super interesting. And a final question on Navi, and I hope I'm not opening a can of worms here. You
Right.
suggested, or you alluded to the idea of her being sentient. Where are you on
No,
that?
I didn't. I did not. I'm saying that there's unfortunately I see a lot of debate around this, and I don't believe these things are or have consciousness or are sentient or will become sentient unless we simulate consciousness.
Mm.
But that's again a different story. For me, it's all mathematics. At the end of the day, it's all mathematics. And we've been kind of diving into this because a lot of people are asking us about this, and they're worried about. I love Arnold. I think he's a great actor. I'd say this in a tongue in cheek. They're all worried about Arnold coming in tight leather pants with a shotgun and just like shooting everybody, kind of a thing. That will never happen unless somebody programs, something like a Navi, gives her a shotgun and programs her for, actually push for a vindictive or an evil. So you have to have. There is a bad actor behind it. It's not gonna again, I'm going to get called on this. Maybe your listeners might email, whatever. Bring it. I don't have a problem. We'll have a chat about it, because I've gone and written the models, the mathematical models behind how this thing is working, and I know how it works. So I don't, and I've been, as I said, I'm the kind of, praise the Lord, I'm in the unique position to have been involved in the design of microprocessors in '88 that went into robots, and have a pretty good grasp of everything that goes up to the large language model. There's nothing in there that's going to create, consciousness. That's my view, right?
Yeah.
It's all math. It's all math running on silicon. It's emulating the thinking of a human being, but it doesn't know what it's saying. I think there's more recognition in the patterns, like when we use, and by the way, Dr. Andrew Ng, that was a Stanford professor. I took his class and I studied there in 2018, 2019, when I was doing one of my consulting startups back in the Asia Pacific, Middle East region. He also doesn't believe that there's going to be consciousness or this thing is going to become sentient. And he sees it for what it is. And I'm in his camp. This is a tool. You can do bad things with a tool, right? Or you can do great things with a tool, but there's no consciousness.
I certainly agree with you, and the idea of the whole sort of Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator takeover, I think, is a little bit too far-fetched. And I think the way that you position it, that there's definitely a bad actor behind that future.
Correct.
Is spot on.
I'm gonna, if I may, because I've been going down this rabbit hole for a little while. AGI. I've got news for everybody. We've already achieved AGI, guys. We're there. Artificial general intelligence has arrived. People are still saying, "Oh, when we achieve it, it's going to be another 10 years." There are different views and opinions based on your definition of AGI, but the way that we look at it, based on a lot of our research and thinking, because we were always asked about these things, and we have to not only advise clients, but we have to provide context so they can kind of understand the lay of the land. And I like to think of TCLI that we dispel myths. We are mythbusters when it comes to AI and AGI and how these things are working, because you're going to be more productive the minute that you have command of your world and you are not afraid of what you're embarking on. You're going to be able to do some great things. So AGI, we look at it based on our research and all the greatest and latest that we've heard. It's really three things. It's speed, collective intelligence, like speed intelligence, collective intelligence, and quality intelligence. And these come from a book called Superintelligence by, the name will come to me in a second, by a professor from Oxford University. This was written, by the way, a while back. But if you look at those three things, we definitely have speed intelligence. Since the time we flew to the moon, we had speed intelligence, right? Back in the 60s, if you really think about it. Then there's definitely collective intelligence, because machines, if you put them in a cluster to collaborate, they're not going to backstab. There's no politics. There's no delays. And then the ability to copy knowledge from one machine to the next is instantaneous. So there's definite collective intelligence that machines have over us already. And then the third one is the quality. Are they producing something that is coherent and makes sense? That's what all the chatbots are doing. So you take those three things, we're there. I think the delay in declaring AGI is just a ploy to get more funds into the to the discipline. But I think we're definitely at a stage now where we need to figure out, all right, now if we accept what I'm submitting to you here, let's assume that we have achieved AGI, and we accept the idea of we need to, kind of step out of the sidelines and engage. What's the best way to put these things to work?
Yeah, super interesting. And something that you mentioned a few moments ago that I'd like to unpack with you is the idea of sort of getting on the bandwagon now before it's too late. I've certainly seen a change in attitude towards artificial intelligence. 6 months ago, everyone was very afraid that, AI is going to take all of our jobs. And yes, there is a segment of jobs that will become obsolete because AI will be able to will do that. However, I've seen that attitude change now to AI is here to augment us, and we need to be utilizing it to
Very good.
be more efficient and to have far better outcomes for
Very good.
whatever it is that
Uh,
we're doing.
My view is that people with AI will take the jobs and replace people without AI.
Yeah. So my question is around how do you combat those individuals who are just completely overwhelmed by the idea of jumping on the bandwagon? How do you convince them to make that jump with you?
So, I mean, I think that over the years and now, hopefully, I've matured enough and I've wisened up enough to know that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? So there are different classes of people, and to sound like a broken record, I'll go back to the law of diffusion of innovation. If you're familiar with that bell curve, you go at 2.5% of the people that they just get it. They're innovators and they're gonna jump on it and they're gonna do it. And you have early adopters that quickly get convinced once they see these early kind of the innovators take off. And these early adopters are about, I think, 12.5%, 13.5%. I mean, these are rough estimates, but generally it's a bell curve, right? And then if you look at that, about 15% of the population, 15.5% of the population. So to answer your question, there's the late majority, usually kind of like the bigger chunk, and I think it's about 13.5%. If you just look at a normal distribution, right? 13.5% that are just like kind of skeptical, but they're generally going to be like a early majority, as they say. That's when you've kind of crossed over the novelty, and people are beginning to realize, hey, this thing is going to stay. This thing is going to stick. Let's start looking at it for real. And then those early majority is when you start having real conversion towards mainstream, right? And I think if you think about ChatGPT and all these tools, large language models, we're definitely in the early majority now phase. We've got mass adoption. It's becoming common uses. Everybody has used it at least once, if not more. And now we start working on the late majority. And I think you're talking about the late majority or the laggards. And I always joke about the laggards. It's like a friend of mine that bought 15 Nokia phones. I was living in Dubai at the time. He bought 15 Nokia phones, or the ones that are touchpad before the smartphones. That every time one breaks, he throw it and then just gets another box out because he will never let go of that Nokia phone. These people are the only way they will change is when there's no other option. So there's no need to spend your time on these people. I think it's more like the early and late majorities, which make up, I guess I'm sorry, it's not 13.5, it's 34.5%. Like that's what the numbers say, 34.5 and 34. So we're talking about 70% of the people between early and late majorities. So if you're talking about the early and late majorities and working with those guys, there are different techniques that you can use. There's a part where you apply, you try to approach them with logic and explanation, right? So, and I'm sorry to back up here just to make sure that I'm kind of being sequential in my thinking so that I can get the message across. The innovators, you don't have to do anything. They're going to be on it, right? They're going to jump on it. The early adopters, it's going to be a pretty small argument. They're going to jump on and start trying it. So that 15%, that initial 15% or 16%, you don't have to do much with. They're already using it. The early majority is the one that you're going to be working on to say, look, here are the benefits. Here's why you should do it. And da 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 da. You can lead a horse to water. But whether they drink or not is going to be their decision. And we have full respect and empathy. As I said, hopefully we've matured enough and we're enlightened enough to know that there's a certain speed by which people will change, and would be stupid to think that we can accelerate or we can try to force them. There's no forcing. At the end of the day, somebody has to be convinced that they need to change the way they operate and their model in order for them to progress. So it's just a matter of how long it takes them to kind of cross that bridge. But now, as an executive, if I was a CEO of a company, and I've been in this position, bringing in large, massive transformation, the way that we manage it, and this is something that we're baking into our Compass, into our Navi, into our, like the methodology part of Compass, let's say, where we actually introduce waves of change. So I have this concept of, you got to bring in waves of change. And if you look at the if you've been out swimming in the ocean, if you swim far enough to where you're not just having all the waves crash on you, but you're actually at the point where the waves are breaking. There's really three different positions in like that wave architecture. Sounds geeky. You can be sitting, even though these waves are coming into the crashing on the beach, you can be still stationary because the wave comes, it carries you up and then down, but you actually you don't move in a way like, let's say just conceptually, you don't move. You're just watching the waves break. So you're kind of like a bystander. And then there are people that are just like the innovators and the early adopters, man. They are, high-fiving and bumping chests. They're riding that wave. That they're riding those waves of change, as they crash on the beach. And then you've got the third personality where they're just sitting like, I don't want to call them innocent bystanders. They just refuse to change. But these crashes are coming and these waves are wiping them out. And these are, in my opinion, the jobs that are being lost. The people that just hanging on to dear life to those candles, they don't want to change. And no, I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and everything's going to be all right. Those are going to wipe out, right? So if you look at kind of the anatomy of a wave, you got to understand where you are in that wave. So as an executive and something that we're trying to put into our methodology, we actually, and I'm working with Navi and I'm programming Navi in being able to input parameters to say, here's the project plan, here's what we're going to change, here's the level of change. Now let's architect waves that we're going to introduce change into this organization, and we want to do it in X number of months. And then Navi will spit out a project plan that says wave 1 will be this functionality, this duration. Wave 2 will be this functionality, this duration. And then when we work with the executives and the board, we will introduce these waves of change. And then the idea is that at the conclusion of every wave, you should have the majority of the people, you should have bought, the early and late majority should have bought in to what you're doing. And if they haven't, you have to basically put them on notice that if they don't change, you're going to fire them. It sounds like brutal, but honestly, I've tried it so many different ways. At the end of the day, it's kind of come down to this. If they cannot be convinced with logic and explanation and value to them and value to the organization, if they simply just do not want to change, there's a certain point where you have to say, listen, you either get on board or you go find another job.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's just the reality of it. So, I'm quite keen to pick your brain around, what the future of artificial intelligence holds in the next. It's tough to put a time frame on it because if you look at the changes we've seen in the last 6 months across the AI landscape, agentic AI systems now where, they don't just respond, they plan, they act, they adapt, as you've told us with Navi, generic and multimodal AI across text, image, video. This has all happened in the last 6 months. So to ask you to predict what the next 3 years looks like is maybe a bit of an unfair question. So let's halve that. In the next 18 months, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think, and to me, I think as a person, again, as I'm growing older, I realize the amount of misinformation that's out there, right? And the fear mongering that's going on. So and this is my advice to anybody that wants to take it, go to credible sources. So credible sources would be, again, like I have a lot of respect for Dr. Andrew Ng. Dr. Andrew Ng is great at breaking things down and explaining, trends and what's happening. Be leery of fear mongering because that's one way to try to influence behavior is to scare you. If somebody's bullying you, just kind of completely just step out of that, say, you know what, I'm not going to subscribe to this, and go seek credible sources. So the reason that I'm saying this is that, again, the kind of thing with AGI that we were being asked about, the AGI, et cetera, the credible sources that we're going to are Oxford University, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, UC Berkeley, and we're looking at the latest research coming out from these researchers rather than pontificators. Man, I love YouTube. We're active on YouTube. I think it's an awesome platform. Democratization galore, right? So what that gives us is the ability to actually pick our sources, right? So my advice to all your listeners, guys, dig deeper, go find out the background, make sure the source is credible, because everybody and their brother and their sister are on YouTube, at least it seems like it, and everybody has an opinion. So you have to make sure that you're investing in the right places. So again, Dr. Andrew Ng, MIT, all of the reputable, NC State, UNC Chapel Hill, all these reputable sources, I would say go to Oxford University, but don't, just be leery of those others that you don't know where they're coming from, especially the faceless marketing. I'm freaked out about this actually, because you don't know who's behind it and you don't know what the objective is. And it is a concern and a question mark for me. I don't take anything at face value. If somebody's marketing to me and I don't know who they are and who's behind it, you have no idea what this objective is. My advice is just like, don't subscribe and just don't use those, because you got to know the ethos and the values for somebody that's dishing something out, to make sure that they're good people. Otherwise, you're being manipulated and you don't want to kind of fall in that. So sorry for the long intro, but for the next 16 to 18 months, I think a lot of the credible sources are saying agentic AI agency is going to become a thing. There's going to be more and more automated workflows, and I can clearly see it. Like Compass for Law, what we're issuing now for law practices, is about taking a lot of Navi's capabilities in analysis and in planning, and putting it in, giving her more agency in executing workflows. So you have an inbound client form coming in, or a client coming in. How do we take that information, find all the missing information, and do the work that's necessary in order for us to do the client intake? So a lot of this agentic AI is going to come in. OpenAI just enabled their agent builder. By the way, anybody that has a ChatGPT Plus subscription, you can go play with this. It's platform.openai.com. and go to agent builder. I think you have to provide your credit card. It's peanuts, man. It's nothing. Provide your credit card. It's not a big deal, assuming you're an adult and you're paying for your subscriptions. And you can start playing with agents. You can build an agent that links to your email, links to your calendar. It can start looking through you can start giving it instructions on how to manage your workflows. So I think that's what's going to take off in the coming 12 to 18 months. And then we're going to see more and more of these kind of automated workflows working together. So I'll connect, for example, my personal calendar workflow with my Amazon workflow, with my travel workflow, and then these will work together, hopefully, to achieve specific rules that I've set, or guidelines that I've set. Yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot more. Robotics is doing its own thing. All this stuff that we're doing with bots like Navi and automation, they're making their way into robots, and I think that's on a separate cycle. But I definitely see, a lot of automation, not necessarily robotics as humanoids, but I think for some reason, as humans, we like to think in terms of absolutes. I want a robot that does everything, laundry. I think there's going to be more robotics with AI that are built into use cases that are going to be very helpful, that will emerge as well in the coming 12 to 18 months. So I think agentic AI, more robotics, and I definitely see another book that I recommend. I'm sorry, man, I just recommended a bunch of books and a bunch of readings, like I'm giving your listeners homework. Another book that I recommend reading is by Mustafa Suleyman, the founder of DeepMind, which got acquired by Google and became AlphaGo, and then the foundation for Google Translate, etc. And I think he's onto another venture now. I just learned last night. He's a great guy, based in London. He wrote a book when he was with DeepMind called The Coming Wave. And The Coming Wave talks about the changes that are coming in artificial intelligence, molecular biology, synthetic biology, and like all the disruptive technologies. That is a great primer to what's coming. And he talks about this tsunami wave that's coming, that's going to wipe out so many jobs. I think that's a great primer for the early, let's assume that we're talking to the early majority, for them to kind of read, to help them kind of make the decision to move. That's what I think is going to happen in the coming 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And this has just been an absolutely fascinating conversation, Fadi.
Well, thank you.
I feel like we are unfortunately out of time, but I would
Yeah,
love
yeah,
to pick
that's
this
all right.
conversation up with you again for maybe a round two of the podcast. But let's see what we can organize. Thank you so much for your time. I
Would be
really
delighted.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Lawrence.
Before we go, Fadi, if the viewers and listeners want to reach out to you, connect with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
I would say get on LinkedIn. You can connect me with LinkedIn. I accept all LinkedIn requests almost daily. Just bear with me on messaging. I've explained I'm kind of like under, so I'll try to get to your messages. I strongly encourage those that feel motivated and want to do something, engage with us. I mean, obviously, this is biased advice, but I mean, I'm putting the disclaimer that it's a biased advice. Engage with us on the academy. Go to grow.tcliacademy.com. There's a free forever tier called Observer where you can knock around the platform and see what's happening. And once you decide that this is for you, you can subscribe to an enterprise tier or startup tier, because we help both the enterprise user that's trying to do transformation with AI, or the startup founder that's trying to go 0 to 1 or scale their business, of giving them curated courses from experts that they can engage with in real time once they've subscribed, to help them kind of through that navigation. I would say they can also direct message me on that platform. I'm on that platform daily, and I have courses on that platform. So that'd be a great place. I think those two places would be where I would recommend. Also, you can search us. You can search for the Consulting Lab Inc. on YouTube. We dish out a lot of free content. I'd like to think valuable content on YouTube that they can learn and comment and engage with us there as well.
Amazing. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for the time.
That's it for today's episode of the Aegance Offscript Podcast. If this conversation sparked something within you, a thought, a question, or a new way of seeing your own business, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.